Hey YouTube, it's ICU and welcome to the 211th episode of Best Tech Info and Rumors. Alright, to start off, there's a lot to talk about in this week's episode, mostly because of Apple's recent October 16th media event at which they not only unveiled the future of their iPad hardware lineup, being the iPad Air 2 and the iPad Mini 3, but they also discussed iOS 8.1, OS X Yosemite, and a few Mac updates. And I wanted to really talk about iOS 8.1, how it may affect jailbreaking, and a few things related to jailbreaking more toward the end of this episode, so just be sure to stick around for more details on that. I will also have an annotation on the screen now that you can actually click to fast forward to that segment of the video, and there will be another annotation after that portion to come back to where you left off. So I just wanted to get that out of the way first, and now let's talk about the new iPad models. So on Thursday, Apple announced not only the iPad Air 2, but also the iPad Mini 3. And as far as the design is concerned, the iPad Mini 3 is exactly the same as its predecessor, the second generation or the Retina iPad Mini. However, the iPad Air 2 does sport a thinner profile. It measures in at merely 6.1 millimeters in thickness versus 7.5 millimeters for the iPad Mini 3. The Air 2 also weighs just 0.96 pounds, and Apple is able to achieve this reduced profile thanks to their engineering team's efforts in not only reducing the air gaps between the different elements on the display and the actual iPad Air 2 itself, but they also made one notable sacrifice. They removed the mute and lock toggle switch on the side. And the dual microphones are also in a different position. The iSight camera has also been updated to 8 megapixels on the iPad Air 2, and it's similar to that of the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus. However, there are a few drawbacks on the iPad Air 2. Most notably, it does not feature focus pixel technology, but it does support new time-lapse and burst modes, and the camera on the iPad Mini 3 remains 5 megapixels. And really, as far as the iPad Mini 3 is concerned, its internals are identical to those of its predecessor, which is actually pretty surprising, but we're starting to see a pattern emerge. With the original iPad Mini, its specs mirrored those of the iPad 2. It featured an A5 processor, and then when we bumped up to the iPad Mini 2 or the iPad Mini with Retina display, it did mirror the specs of its full-size 9.7-inch counterpart, the iPad Air. And now we're back to lower-end specs with the third generation. So maybe with the iPad Mini 4, we can expect to see specs similar to the full-size iPad, which at that point will be the iPad Air 3 or whatever name Apple decides to go with. And actually, right in the middle of talking about and reviewing the specifications and differences of these two iPads, I also wanted to mention that I did create an all-new video following Apple's unveiling event that actually goes into detail on the two iPads, and it summarizes all of the differences in just 2 minutes. And also it mentions all of the additions. So if you happen to miss out on that and you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend watching it. I am going slightly more into depth in this video, but there are things that I'm actually not going to mention. So if you're interested in the new iPads, I do recommend watching that one in addition to this one. Alright, and back to the Air 2, aside from its reduction in both thickness and weight, it does feature something else that's pretty notable over its predecessor, being the original iPad Air: its display. Now, it wasn't increased in resolution or pixel density. It still has a 9.7-inch 2048 by 1536 display. However, it is fully laminated, and Apple has used a new custom-designed anti-reflective coating that's able to reduce glare by up to 56%. It still has 3.1 million pixels or 264 pixels per inch though. And earlier reports on the new iPad Air 2 following the event stated that assets on the display feel more, quote, touchable, which is definitely interesting, and I'll let you guys know when I'm able to get my hands on it, unbox it for you guys, and do a quick review. So just be sure to stay tuned for that. Again, I plan on having complete coverage on both iPad models, but I'm not done yet. The iPad Air 2 also features an all-new A8X CPU, which does boost performance over its predecessor, which of course features the A7 chip. And actually, so does the iPad Mini 3. Like I said before, the internals on that one are identical to those of its predecessor, but the iPad Air 2 has the all-new A8X chip, which is actually improved over even the CPU found in the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus. Due to the X designation on this all-new chip, it will feature improved graphics. And at this point, you may be asking, well, why would anyone buy the iPad Mini 3, especially if they own the second generation generation iPad mini? Well, as I mentioned previously, both of the new iPads sport Touch ID, which will allow for securely unlocking your device using your finger. However, remember, fingerprint data is encrypted and stored locally on a portion of the chip called the Secure Enclave. It's never available to third-party apps, and the fingerprint in its entirety isn't even stored. Again, an encrypted representation of your fingerprint is what actually allows for unlocking it, verifying purchases, and also interacting with third-party apps, but like I said, they don't have access to the fingerprint data stored on the Secure Enclave. So while this is a comparison without the devices between the two, the iPad Air 2 is absolutely the winner. The iPad Mini 3 will most likely be for those who are upgrading from something like the original iPad Mini or even an older iPad and they don't want the full-size 9.7-inch iPad. But for me personally, I'm going to go with the iPad Air 2. I will get the Mini 3 for you guys to do some unboxing reviews and comparison videos with. And now let's talk about something else that was announced during the event, X Yosemite. It was actually released and it's available as a free download inside of the Mac App Store. So any Mac that has access to the Mac App Store will be able to update to X Yosemite or OS 10.10 completely for free. And I've been using it for quite some time now on my Mac Pro, which is actually back there. That's the computer that's powering these two displays. There was some common misconception between a few of my viewers in last week's episode. This is actually just one computer, again with two displays. But like I said, I've been using it for a while now. I absolutely love Yosemite. It introduces a plethora of enhancements, most notably a complete design change to match the more flat appearance of both iOS 7 and iOS 8. It also introduces continuity via handoff, which will allow you to actually use different applications between your iPhone, iPad, and Mac seamlessly. So let's say, for instance, you have a document open via the Notes app and you're working on it on your iPhone 6. You go over to your Mac and you go to unlock it and you'll actually be able to access it from the dock. You'll see a new icon to the left of your dock and you'll be able to take over from where you left off. So we'll open up the Notes application. And the same thing goes for other apps from Apple like Pages, Safari, Numbers, and more. But continuity doesn't stop there. There are actually some other things rolled into it as well, such as the ability to make calls on your Mac or on your iPad, which is an absolutely awesome experience. It uses your phone and it essentially uses the other device that you're making the call on as a speakerphone. At least that's how Apple put it. I've used it a number of times now between my iPad and my Macs. It works absolutely great and it's incredible and strangely liberating to be able to make a call on your iPad. And now, as for iOS 8.1, which is also discussed during the event, it will be released on Monday, October 20th. So this coming Monday. It's a major release, and as far as the significant features are concerned, it will include SMS and MMS forwarding, which will allow you to send regular text messages from your Mac or from your iPad. It will also have Instant Hotspot, which intelligently tethers your iPhone with your Mac, iCloud Photo Library Beta, which can store all of your photos in the cloud provided you have enough storage space. But more importantly, with 8.1, Apple Pay will finally launch, and I'm going to do a video on it for you guys, so be sure to stick around for that. I'm not sure when it'll be out, however, because I will have to test it a couple of times, and I'll have to see how it works for real-world applications. So again, just be sure to stay tuned. I'll keep you guys updated on the status of that one, though. Next, during the event and following it, Apple actually released an all-new iMac with a 5K Retina display, and it starts at a 3.5 GHz i5 processor that's upgradable to a 4 GHz i7 CPU. And as for the screen, it's a 27-inch Retina 5K display at a resolution of 5120 by 2880. Apple claims that it's the highest resolution of any computer, and it has 14.7 million pixels. I actually ordered one following the event. I already received it. I'm recording this episode on Friday. Following this, I'm going to actually unbox it and do a quick review on it for you guys. So that video should already be up on my channel now. I will have a link to it down below in the more info. Be sure to watch it. I highly recommend checking it out. This computer will be absolutely amazing, but it's not really going to be designed for a lot of video editors, more like those in photography. However, the higher end model will be able to handle things like video editing and animation. Here's what a 5K image looks like though, but unless you actually have a 5K display, you won't be able to truly appreciate how incredible it looks. I personally would have preferred it if Apple had updated their Thunderbolt display, which hasn't been in quite some time, to feature a display panel that's similar to the one found on the all-new iMac. Now, the Mac Mini was also updated to provide a spec refresh to keep things current. And aside from Apple, Google announced their latest Nexus devices and made them available for pre-order. So we now have the Nexus 6 and the Nexus 9. The 9 is a tablet and the 6 is actually a 6-inch phone. So it's an incredibly big display, even bigger than the one found on the iPhone 6 Plus, which is 5.5 inches. And in addition to those two, they also announced their new Nexus player. So now let's talk about jailbreaking. As most of you know, the Evaders are the longtime jailbreak developers on the scene. They released not only the first iOS 6 jailbreak utility, but also the first tool to fully jailbreak iOS 7, being Evasion and Evasion 7 respectively. Following the release of Evasion 7, however, Apple issued iOS 7.1, which effectively patched a number of exploits utilized in Evasion 7 to achieve an untethered jailbreak on iOS 7.0 through 7.0.6. And after that, a newcomer to the jailbreak scene released their all-new tool called Pangu, and the dev team actually goes by the same name, the Pangu team. They're based out of China and they're funded by a third-party Chinese company with other monetary interest in jailbreaking. So we have two main teams working on the next untethered jailbreak. They're in development stealth mode, so to speak, right now, however, and they're keeping things pretty tight-lipped. But we do know for sure that they're actively discovering new vulnerabilities for potential exploitation in upcoming jailbreak utilities. Also, with the all-new iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus having recently been released, and the new iPad Air 2 and the iPad Mini 3, as well as iOS 8.1 on the horizon, all of the pieces to the puzzle are starting to fall into place, and the dev teams will have all that they need to actually create a new jailbreak utility. Especially considering the fact that the iPad Air 2 features a new A8X chip, they'll need to get their hands on that and test it first before they can properly create a jailbreak utility that supports all devices. Once they've successfully achieved that, there will be a testing period, and then hopefully we'll see a jailbreak utility sooner than in years past. To provide a timeline for you guys, we're currently in the month of October, and last year, Evasion 7, the first untethered jailbreak for iOS 7.x, wasn't released until close to the end of the year in December. So just be sure to stay tuned. I will keep you guys fully updated on the status of the jailbreak development along the way. Also, be sure to watch my recent jailbreak update video, as there's a lot of good information there related to 8.0.2, the latest public firmware as of now, and iOS 8.1, which will be the latest public firmware starting Monday. So again, check that out. It's listed on my channel. You can also find a link to it down below in the more info. And now moving on, I wanted to talk about Free App Life. And for those of you who don't know, maybe if you're one of my newer viewers, Free App Life is a service brought to you by myself, Adrian, and Mispa. It allows you to earn free paid iOS apps from Apple's App Store legally, while simultaneously supporting the developers of said applications by downloading sponsored apps for points and redeeming said points for prizes. Well, we've done a lot of work on it recently. We've fixed a number of issues with the service, and I'm planning on making a complete and new dedicated video for you guys on Free App Life discussing all of the new features which will be introduced soon. We have an awesome update for you guys, so just be sure to stick around for that. You can't expect that video following the release of iOS 8.1. Also, I am going to make an all-new video discussing unlocking, how an IMEI unlock works, and what type of unlock you should use for your device that will essentially allow it to function on any carrier, provided the hardware in your iPhone supports said carrier. And that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did and you're interested in an all-new giveaway, be sure to rate this video up and leave a relevant comment down below in the comment section. Once you've done that, download Free App Life by visiting bit.ly/getfreeapplife or freeapplife.com inside of mobile Safari. After hitting download and install, press the home button, open the app, and if you're on iOS 8, download and install the temporary secure profile, which is strictly used for associating your device with its proper account in a more secure manner on the latest firmware. It's never even installed on your device, as it's immediately deleted once your account has either been created or reassociated. After that, simply download sponsored apps for points, and again, refer friends to earn even more points, which can then be used for various prizes. Like I said before, including paid apps, gift cards, and electronic devices. And as far as the giveaway is concerned, it will either be an iPad Air 2 or an iPhone 6 Plus. What do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments section. And as for the iPhone 6 giveaway that we recently held, that did conclude. We are still sorting through the entries for that, however, and we will announce a winner soon on Facebook. So follow Free App Life on Facebook. And if you guys want to be updated more often, such as when I create new videos covering not only iOS 8.1, but also the next Untethered Jailbreak, and also the new iPad models, and even future Apple products like the upcoming Apple Watch, just be sure to like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, add me one of your circles inside of Google+, follow me on Instagram at ICUID, and subscribe to my secondary YouTube channel at youtube.com/ICUID. And until next time, this is ICU signing out.